Hello, I'm PJ Bishop. Welcome to my channel and the new series with the Oakland Athletics. I guess to shorten it, Oakland A's. In this video, we're going to go over the lineup, the not so vaunted lineup. It's a very average-esque lineup, top to bottom. Nothing outstanding, although there are some players that can do really good things individually. But overall, it's not a lineup that brings in a lot of fear. And no one is projected to really get much better than what they already are. So let's start with the versus right-handed pitchers. Leading off for us is right fielder J.J. Bleday. He is 26 years old. Fairly decent looking from what I see here. Not a bat-to-ball skills guy. Should get on base a ton because his eye is high. His strikeout rate is average. So I do expect him to get on base because it doesn't look like his average will be high because of his contact is fairly low. But he's got a phenomenal gap power, above average power, and then nearly plus eye. So he should be able to get on base at a fairly high clip with the ability to steal a base here and there. He's not a very fast guy nor aggressive, but when he does choose to steal bases, he is capable of doing so. And he's a perfect fit for right field, as he's got a strong arm at 65. Again, I think this should be higher. I think right field should be higher than left field. That's my personal opinion. I feel like in left field you need more range than you would in right field, while in right field you would need a better arm, and like similar to second base and shortstop. A really rangy second baseman, although good to have, is not as necessary. Now, if he has a high error, that's fine because obviously it's less mistakes, and the higher turn double play rate is what you're looking for in a second baseman. So I wish that's some of the things on my wish list is that Out of the Park would be a little more specific with their, like, really get into detail with the positions and what each one should actually have. Same thing with the kind of profile that a batter should have in that position. Like a right fielder should have power. He does. A right fielder usually should have a good arm. He does, and power. So he fits the profile of a right fielder. Yet he's not as skilled there, nor will he as a left fielder, which doesn't make sense to me, considering that he is exactly what a right fielder should be. Last year for Oakland, he played in roughly half the games. Below average, didn't hit 200, so did struggle pretty much all year, and he was given plenty of chances. But here I am, giving him the leadoff spot right out the gate. So hopefully he improves. And he is... we are platooning the right field because leading off for versus lefties is right fielder Stephen Piscotty. Also a good right fielder as far as the skill set is concerned. Again, very similar here. Better left fielder than right fielder, even though the arm is good. He's not a very good player. He is a free agent this year, so don't be surprised if he plays poorly. He might find himself on the waiver wire. Not a prototypical right fielder. The power is average. But he is... Don't be fooled by this. I guess he's just better versus lefties. I wouldn't put him in at the leadoff spot if he wasn't. So all his attributes must really be phenomenal versus lefties. Hasn't played in the majors since 2022, so all year he was at AAA where he was an average player. So we'll find out what he does this year. His first major league action in a couple of years. Batting number 2 and our full-time third baseman is Abraham Turo. He's batting 2 versus righties and 3 slot versus lefties. Again, another average player. Looks pretty good. Looks like we acquired him from Milwaukee. He's more of a bat-to-ball guy, which I like usually in my 2-3 holes. I like guys that can put the ball into play. Because if I got him in already on first, I would like to advance that man, and of course with the guy that can actually hit. Nothing exciting here, just very average-esque. But this is going to be my entire lineup. So now, last year in the smallest sample size we've ever have, he was phenomenal. But at AAA, he had a solid season at AAA Nashville. If he can even maintain part of that, if he's an average hitter, I can be happy with that. I just don't want to be the White Sox. Batting number 3 versus righties is center fielder Esteury Ruiz. He is full-time center fielder. He's batting 9th versus lefties. I love his on-base skill set. Perfect grade speed. Stealing aggressiveness is ridiculous. Stealing ability is perfect. Base running is plus. He's a center fielder, even though he would fit better. I guess he'll be an excellent left fielder, which makes sense if outfield range is pretty much the lone requirement there. But he's got good center field range, pretty good air, not a very good arm. Doesn't need to have a good arm. It helps to have a good arm in center field. It's not the be-all, end-all. Range is extremely important. Offensively, he's never going to be a power guy unless he just gets that TCR in his favor for power, because he's just not a very big dude. He's 6 foot 170, so he's fairly tall and extremely light. 170 is pretty skinny. I was 155 in high school, and I'm 5'11", so he outweighs me by 50. And I was a skinny dude. He outweighs me by 15 pounds as a professional in his mid-20s. Offensively, he looks fairly average. I'm not going to draw a lot of walks, but it looks like he strikes out at an above average plus the contact. So it looks to me like he should hit for a pretty good average. And with his on-base skill set, he's a dangerous person once on base. Even if he gets on first base, he's extremely dangerous. Somebody that could put a lot of pressure on the opposing defense. Last season for Oakland, below average as far as his on-base percentage is concerned. Average was fairly meh at 254. Did steal 67 bases, so he does do a good job. So despite his low on-base percentage and his low average, he was able to still swipe 67 bases. So you can imagine that if he improves even a little bit here or here, in both areas, his steal rate should obviously increase. Batting in the cleanup spot is left fielder Seth Brown. He's also batting 7th against lefties. Average player, decent defender at left field, but he's got the power. He's got power and gap power, so he should be able to hit home runs and drive in runs with doubles, with plenty of doubles. He's got plenty of double potential. But with low contact and below average avoid Ks, he is a strikeout threat. So he's one of those guys that's probably going to hit a home run, get you a double. Will get singles, but there'll be a lot of frustrating strikeouts as well. But that comes with power guys. And he can still steal bases too, so he can be a decent little double-double threat there with the home runs and stolen bases. Last year for Oakland, he, again, performed below average. Didn't hit very well, slugging percentage. How many home runs did he end up having? Only 14 home runs. Looks like in a full season a couple of years ago, he was able to get 25 home runs. That was a much better year. If he can do something similar to that, I'll be more happy. And he had 11 stolen bases that year too. And I'm a more aggressive person when it comes to, or more aggressive manager when it comes to base stealing. So even if he can come back to 25 and 25 and 20 would be a pretty good year. Batting in the number 5 spot and the designated hitter. Now Brent Rooker is. I got him DH versus righties batting in 5th, and I got him cleanup versus lefties playing first base. And that is Brent Rooker. He was an all-star last year, but not getting a lot of love in the game. I guess when you only have one good year, they don't give you too much love. But he had a solid year last year. He's got power. Hit 30 homers. Had a above average OPS 817. The average, that's kind of, his strikeout rate is what it is. So he's definitely a strikeout. So a lot of his is it's either going to be a home run or a strikeout kind of guy, because his average was fairly low. His strikeouts currently, his avoid K is currently at 40. Again, low scouting level, that could change. Hopefully he'll go up to at least 45. Above average eye, but the power is there, so he's got good power. And he was an all-star last year, so hopefully he can continue that good play. Batting number 6 versus righties is Ryan Noda. And I have him solely as a first baseman versus righties. He looks like he's sitting versus lefties. I got a friend in my dynasty league that he calls him Ryan Noda the Exploder, or Ryan Noda the Unloader, because he unloads home runs or the bases. I don't know what his, but again, he's a powerful guy, good power. The avoid K's is scary because he's one of those he's either going to walk or strike out or hit a home run. So he's one of those streaky hitters. So expect him to go on a lot of streaks. Last year for Oakland, very average, but look at that average. The average is 229. He was definitely a, what was his homer? 16 homers. Not a lot of homers for 128 games for 400 at-bats for a guy his power, but I guess I'm going to be platooning him. He might have platooned last year, because that's not a lot of games. 108 games started. You'd figure there's more righties than lefties, so maybe all those other games were against left-handers where he sat. So that does make sense. Batting number 7 and our full-time second baseman, 7 versus righties and 8th versus lefties, is second baseman Zach Geloff, one of our younger players, still under 25, who has he looks solid overall. I think someday he'd be better fit for third base, even though he's not quite too range. He's got a really good infield arm. That's kind of being wasted at second base. But he is the best second base option we have. So I can't do too much as far as moving him around. And he doesn't quite, well, I guess he could profile for third base, but in the unconventional manner, as he would be there because of his ability to steal bases, not because of his ability to hit for power. Usually at third base, you either want a power guy, you want a guy who can steal a ton of bases, or a combination of both, because they got to provide you. You want to look for at least 25 or 30 home runs or 25 or 30 stolen bases, or combine them both that way, 15 homers, 15 stolen bases. Last year, he had 14 homers, 14 stolen bases. And that was only in half the year. You figure you give him a full year, he could have a really good season. He played really well in a small sample size, so I'm surprised that the game is giving him such a low rating for someone who looks like could have a decent potential. Apparently he's selfish. I don't like that. I wonder how the game decides whether you're a poor work ethic. Like, do they go to him, hey, what do you think about Zach? Oh, Zach, he's a lazy piece of poo. Hates working, and is unloyal, too. I left him alone with my girlfriend, and I come back, and they were making out. It's just not a good fella. Just wondering how they figured all this out. But anyway, so Zach looks like he could be a solid piece to our lineup for years to come. I like this. I really love this. I love when it's up to elite level, when it's 70 here. It makes me feel like they can really make an impact once on bases. Our catchers are splitting time. My catcher versus righty is Drew Luckbauer, batting 8th. And versus lefties, it's Shane Langoliers batting 5th over there. So let's take a look at Drew Luckbauer. Drew is a terrible player, to say the least. A terrible player who looks like will he be making his major league debut? Batting stats? Yes, he will be. So he is a rookie. He's a 27-year-old rookie who will be making his major league debut. Although I don't like him at all. I really don't. He's a terrible catcher. He's a good first baseman, which I like that my catcher can also play first. Base pass is terrible. Looks like he's a power, and I do like guys that have power. So he's got above average power. He's got good gap power. He's just not a very good defensive player whatsoever. Last year at AA and AAA, didn't do a very good job at AA or AAA. So that is a little concerning that that's how he performed at a minor league level. Batting number 9 and our full-time shortstop, batting 9th versus righties and 2nd versus lefties, is shortstop Nick Allen. Defensively, he is outstanding. He's got the range that you want for a shortstop. His error is he's not going to make a lot of mistakes, which is what we need when we're our pitching is mediocre, and none of them are really strikeout guys. His arm strength is enough and he can still turn a double play if he needed. But he's got good intangibles. Like, this guy is good. He's one of those sneaky guys. He would obviously be better at second base, but there's no point in putting him there when he's a good enough shortstop. He's definitely a bat-to-ball skills. Never going to be a power guy. Even if TCR came in, his power is so low, it's just never going to get up there. But he should be a guy that hits for high average, because his bat-to-ball can still, his contact can still improve. But then again, that's maybe based off scouting. And he can still get better at avoid Ks, but again, that might get lowered or stay the same once the scouting is. Once our scout gets a better idea of who this guy is. But it looks like he's a bat-to-ball skills, so he should hit for high average. Again, he's one of those high-threat guys on the bases. His stealing ability is really good. Not quite aggressive or fast, so he might not be as successful as somebody like Esteury Ruiz. But he is dangerous once he is on a base pass. He's a good defender, so even if he doesn't hit that well for us, I don't mind. Because he's got it locked down, and I do need a good shortstop considering how weak our pitching is. Last year, he was well below average, though. At 550 is pretty bad. You like to see this in the 600s, and for someone who's not for power, he needs to be hitting closer to 300 when it comes to the average. He can't be. Slugging doesn't have to be high, but at least get to 300. You need to be a run producer. He did manage to hit 4 homers. Only 5 stolen bases. So that's not a very good season. I mean, he played in 106 games, 93 games started. And you're looking here and you're just trying to figure out, what did he do? Like, what were you doing? Stephen Piscotty. Oh, we already looked at Stephen Piscotty, didn't we? We did. We didn't look at Shea Langoliers, who's the catcher over here. Now, he's a much better defender. He's got a really strong arm, so hopefully he can curb some of the stolen bases. Not quite good as a defender, as the arm strength is pretty much is reason why this is up to 60. He's got power. It looks like he's, but again, it's probably best suited for left fielders. Last year for Oakland, well below average or below average in the OPS. The average was near 200, which is not good. You don't want to be hitting there, but back-to-back seasons of hitting near 200 almost suggest that is where he's going to be hitting for his entire life. But he did manage to hit 22 home runs last year, so the power is there. It does translate to actual games, although I expect him to play a lot less unless the other guy just completely craps the bed and I have to waive him or trade him or send him back down to AAA if he's got option years left. DH versus lefties in batting 6 is J.D. Davis. His hitting looks like it's fairly average. The power is there. He's got above average power and above average eye. So that's why he's kind of in the middle, heart of the lineup. He doesn't excel at anything in particular, but he's decent enough. And defensively, he's a liability in pretty much every position. Now, if he played more first, he'd become a solid defender at first, but I don't expect to play him too much. He should be a DH majority of the time. Last year for San Francisco, again, Oakland loves these San Francisco guys. How many ex-San Francisco players do we have? He was average last year, which is kind of what I expected. Everything just lines up to be extremely average. Did pop 18 homers, so he's got the home run power. No threat on the base pass. His thing is he's got to be able to hit home runs and drive in the runs. He's got to get his RBIs at a good level to be valuable. Who else do we look at? That's it, right? I think we went over everybody. Except for poor Tyler Nevin is the only player who has no home versus lefties or righties. He's a full-time bench player. Really good first baseman. If being defense at first base was valuable, he'd win that award. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Last year for Detroit, well below average, barely hit 200, just got it at the bare minimum when it came to that. But he does look like an average hitter overall. The power is not there, which is why you don't see him starting in any of my lineups. Because as a first baseman with no power, and then, of course, you can play third, but you have, again, no power or stealing ability. And then any corner position, whether it be first or third or left or right, you need to have power. If you don't have power, your value at those positions just instantly decreases. And the fact that you're not a good defender either, and these aren't high value, like left field and first base are not high value positions. Right field is better. Third base is more valuable than any of them. But again, he's not a very good third baseman either. So not a good defender. Lacks the power that you need to justify playing these positions, which is why you see him in the bench role. And he's probably going to be there all season. I would be surprised if he has 26 games started. I just don't imagine using him. I like to use my starters as much as I possibly can until they're just too exhausted to play. That's my philosophy when it comes to that. I just prefer my starters to play. They're obviously better. That's why they start. He doesn't. As you can see, my scouting accuracy is low, so I'm sure next month this will all change. We'll have a slightly different looking lineup, and the players will look different because of the inaccuracies in the scouting since I just hired a new guy. That's it for this video. The next video, we're going to go over our prospects so you can get an idea of what we have coming up. Just a forewarning, it's not an exciting group of guys. There's some players there that I like, but there's no future superstars that are going to help turn this thing around.